Tugela River Romance, Book 1, When Darkness Falls by Ashley Winter. Chapter 1. But even in darkness I cannot hide from you. Psalm 139 verse 12. It was different when it was a child. Luke clenched his jaw and flung the car door wide. He grabbed his kit from the passenger seat and dashed through the open door of the suburban home. Hello? A frantic mother accosted him in the kitchen. Here, come quickly. Her voice shook as she steered him out into the backyard. He's not breathing. He just must have opened the gate and fallen in. I didn't think he knew how to open it. I can't believe this is happening. Please say this isn't happening. Oh God, please. A child lay limp beside the swimming pool. Luke slipped into the zone and darted for him. Noise dulled, time slowed. The zone was a safe space, a place where he could switch off every emotion and focus on what needed to be done. To go there, he had to forget he was dealing with a real live human being, and that this was life and death. He had to drown out the sounds of the whimpering mother and the sirens of the approaching ambulance. He tilted the small chin and head back and dropped his ear to the cold blue lips. No breath. Step 2, check for a pulse. Luke pressed the child's wrist for 10 seconds. No pulse. Don't panic. Calm and quick. Move to step 3. Luke pinched the child's nose and gave 5 short breaths, then positioned his palms on the tiny breastbone and began compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More breaths, more compressions. This was a child. What if he couldn't save him? What was his mother saying? Her frantic tone threatened to shift him from the zone. He couldn't let that happen. He must not think or feel, only act. The dithering mother came into view. She was unavoidable, tears streaming down her blotchy face. Was she talking to him? Luke tore his gaze from hers and back onto the grey little face. Cough, cough, cough. Water spewed from the child's mouth, and Luke rolled him onto his side. Okay, my boy, you're okay now. The mother's arms were around him then, holding on as though her life depended on it. Thank you, oh, thank you. Luke avoided her eyes. He was no longer in the zone. He'd break now if he saw the emotion there. He pushed the wet hair off the shivering child's forehead. Ma'am, the ambulance will be here soon. Get some towels now and keep him warm until it arrives. Okay. Will you wait with me? Her strung-out voice was barely a whisper. Luke nodded, his eyes still fixed on the child. Yeah, of course. He didn't usually work alone, but today they'd caught him on his way home. He'd been the closest. What could he say? He didn't like working on children? That his partner usually took the lead when the patient was a child? The incoming sirens pierced through the late afternoon's pink sky. It was rush hour in Durban. No wonder they needed to use them. 2 paramedics bounded around the side of the house. His job was done. Everything was okay. Relief trickled down to his toes, relaxing every muscle along the way. He'd done it. Luke straightened as they neared. Hi guys, he's okay now. He needed CPR. He'll need a thorough checkup. Thanks, Luke. We'll take it from here. The larger of the 2 dropped onto his haunches beside the boy and felt for the pulse in his wrist. Hi, little man. It's okay. You're getting a ride in an ambulance. How does that sound? Luke flung the strap of his kit bag over his shoulder and trudged back to his double cab. His hands shook with adrenaline as he pulled his keys from his pocket. Today, he'd pulled it off. But what about tomorrow? And the day after that? The questions that still haunted him charged at him from all sides, the way they always did after a life or death rescue. How long until everyone at work realized he wasn't as wonderful as they thought? How long until he froze and messed up again? Vanessa dropped the keyring and fridge magnet into the craft bag and handed it to the foreigner on the other side of the counter. There you go, ma'am. The Texan woman, complete with cowgirl hat, scratched through her purse with her long red fingernails, yanked out a note, examined it, and slid it over the tabletop. I think that's right. I can never tell with these rands, she drawled, adding a piercing laugh. Vanessa smiled, took the money, and tucked it into position at the till. Yes, that's right. Thank you very much. She closed the cash drawer, and the woman clip-clopped off into the cafe area with her purchase. Hi, Mom. The glass door of the gift shop knocked the tiny bell as it shut behind her 12-year-old daughter. Zoe, Vanessa gave her a smile. How did your spelling test go? Zoe's shoulders slumped as she dropped her backpack behind the checkout counter. 2 wrong. Well done. Vanessa drew her close for an embrace. 80% is great. The child pulled back and gawked at her. Well done. I got 2 wrong, Mom. 2. I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, why did her sweet daughter put so much pressure on herself? Vanessa took the precious face in her hands and found her eyes. There's nothing wrong with you, Zoe. You got 8 right. And those words were so difficult. I'm not even sure I would have got them all right. I'm proud of you. It's not good enough. Zoe kicked off her tackies and shoved them in her bag along with her socks. And how was netball practice? I hope you remembered sunscreen this morning. She shrugged. Yeah, it was fine, I guess. And I don't need sunscreen, Mom. It's still winter. Vanessa sighed. And this is Africa, and there's still UV light, so... Go and ask Auntie Karin for a snack. Maybe she'll give you some milk tart. That'll cheer you up. I'll come now as soon as I've locked up. Wait for me there. Okay. The girl traipsed barefoot through the gift shop and into the cafe. Vanessa crossed her arms as her brow furrowed into deep lines. Did she need to be worried about this? It wasn't new, but where had this drive for perfection come from? She'd always lavished her with praise and never pressurized her to achieve. She'd have to pray more about it. It was starting to rob her beautiful-natured daughter of her carefree spirit. Hi, Auntie Karin. Zoe plonked herself in front of the cake counter and smiled up at the grandmotherly figure behind the computer. Oh, Zoe! She pulled her concerned gaze off the screen and onto the child, dropping her glasses to peer over the top. You look famished, she smiled, but today the light didn't reach her eyes. Was there something wrong? Zoe nodded. I'm completely starving. I was starving since before netball practice. The woman's manicured brows rose. Well then, I have just the thing. She bent down and pulled a whole milk tart from the display cabinet. 1 slice or 2. Zoe pulled a naughty face, shot a cheeky look back in the direction of her mother's gift shop, and held up 2 fingers. That's my girl. The woman found her cake knife and sliced a few segments. Now, if you can't finish your supper and you get into trouble with your mum, don't blame me. She shot a wink at her over the top of her glasses and held out the treat. Never. Zoe took the plate of tarts, sniffed in the cinnamon goodness. Your secret's safe with me, Auntie Karin, as always. Luke steeled himself at the sight of the dainty woman draped up against the door of his flat. This was the last thing he needed. What do you want, Melissa? I'm tired. It's been a long day. She straightened and sent him a devastating smile. You know exactly what I want, Luke. Did she have to look quite this alluring? It was winter. She should be wearing more. Luke dug his key out of his pocket and unlocked the door, shoving it open with his palm. He unzipped his sleeveless jacket and tossed it over the back of his solitary couch. How'd you get my address? The beauty ambled in and closed the door behind her. Luke Meyer, despite what your warped perception of love and romance has taught you to believe, there's a difference between a stalker and a woman who's interested in you. Luke marched for the open-plan kitchen, hauled the bottle of icy water from the fridge, and drank deeply from it. Anything to distract himself from the temptation of the leggy blonde before him. Nice place. She glanced around his sparse interior. Desperately lacking in a woman's touch, though, like you. He ground his back teeth together. The place was a dump. They both knew it, and she needed to leave. Now. Luke thumped the water bottle onto the counter and turned to face her. I didn't ask for your opinion on my life. Something flickered across her eyes. Hurt? Whatever it was, she didn't let it deter her. She sashayed towards him until they stood toe to toe. Don't do this, Melissa. He tipped his head at her in warning. The temptress took his hand and rubbed at the gold band on his finger. Her blue eyes drifted up to his and held. It's time, Luke. You know it is. He dropped his gaze to where their skin touched at his wedding ring. Melissa lifted his hand and pressed it to her cheek. Just give us a try. His heart hardened. If you have to beg me, you know there's something wrong, right? Why had he said that? This woman didn't deserve to be hurt by his issues. Her face fell as she lowered his hand. I'm sorry, he sighed. Obviously, I'm not ready for this. Luke, I know you're attracted to me. I've seen the way you look at me sometimes. He swallowed. You are very beautiful, Melissa, but it's not enough. She threaded her fingers through his. Well, why don't you start by telling me what happened between you and your ex-wife? Did she pass away, or... The woman was clearly deranged, if she thought he'd be sharing one moment of his past with her. You need to leave. Luke spun around and reached into the kitchen cupboard for a can of tuna. Perhaps that would drive the get lost message home. He yanked the drawer open, scratched around for a tin opener, and fitted it onto the can. She sighed, waving a hand at him. You're missing out on life, Luke. In fact, you're throwing your life away. And for what? What could you possibly have to gain by hankering after this past relationship, which is clearly dead? Just who did she think she was? He turned to face her, anger simmering. You've said enough. Please go. I'll go, she nodded, her gaze softening along with her words. Just open your heart, Luke. If it's not me, then someone else. Just be willing to try. I'm going now, and if you don't stop me, you won't see me again. I have too much self-respect. Luke lowered his voice and turned back to his tuna. I'm sorry. Vanessa unlocked the door of her quaint home and pushed it open. Okay, you, bath time, no whinging. She flicked the light switch on and breathed in the calming, grassy scent of the thatched roof. Zoe mumbled as she passed from behind. Lugging her school bag, she disappeared down the short passage. And then homework, Vanessa called after her as she hung her handbag on the hook at the door. Would it always be like this? Just the two of them? She should be grateful. Things could be a whole lot worse. Still, it was impossible to not compare this life with the life that could have been. Vanessa ambled into the tiled kitchen area and found a tub of leftovers in the fridge. She dished up 2 plates of the bobotie and slid the first into the microwave. As the microwave tinged, Vanessa removed the hot plate of food and shoved the next one in. At least she was here, in the home she loved, on the land she needed to be close to. She had Zoe, she had Karin and Mike and their family. Surely, despite what Zoe didn't have, this was a privileged upbringing for her. Who wouldn't want to grow up on the foothills of the Drakensberg's amphitheatre? On a holiday resort, no less. It had been the right move to return, and not even the incessant reminders of what she'd lost could make her believe otherwise. Luke dropped onto the edge of his rickety bed, his leg trembling. He needed a drink. He squeezed his eyes shut and tried to force his mind to a happy place. But the woman's words wouldn't leave him. He was wasting his life. His life wasn't his own. The woman knew nothing. He clenched his jaw against the urge to feel the burn of brandy down his throat. The precious numbness that followed. This peace was an illusion. He knew this. He couldn't let himself go there again, ever. His patients deserved more. He owed them more. Luke flung back his duvet and settled underneath it. Besides, he didn't deserve peace. Luke reached for the bottle of sleeping pills on the bedside table and tipped 2 into his palm. Saving lives meant he needed a good night's sleep. And without alcohol, this was the only way he could get it.